Hello everyone, my name is Marek Walczyk. Yeah, other known as Mr. Panda. Today I'll be talking about special effects in Hollywood. I'll talk a little bit introduction, how they started, how they evolved, what's the history of the special effects. Show you a few techniques used commonly in the movie production. And then I will show you a few examples of the production in practice, because I'm one of the assistant VFX producers in the animation studio, and we're working on the commercials. Like if you see any commercials of yogurt, milk, or other liquids, etc., that's what we do. And it's all CGI, don't believe what you see on TV. So, visual effects are basically name for the illusion that we use to create the history, to tell the story. It all came back to 19th century. The first special effect was, I think, 1856, but the first movie that's considered to use the special effects was The Enchanted Drawing in 1900. We can show the example. I think we can start from second 30. 30, yeah. So basically, that's the first movie considered using special effects. It uses stop motion animation. Our guy is drawing stuff on the paper and then takes it out. A bit too quick. Because it didn't do anything yet on the video. Now the guy is sad, but he's happy because he got wine. So that's 120 years ago, and that was his first special effects. Yeah, so we have two different kinds of special effects. We have one called mechanical. Those include props, scenery, models, pyrotechnics, effects, etc. Everything that you have physically on the set while shooting the movie or commercial. And examples here are all the makeups, cosmetics. They are made real. Here is an example from one of the Game of Thrones episodes. Don't know if you watch it, but it's basically not very known series. There was one scene where there was a dragon attacking the Lannisters' army. Come on, it's a few years. And they had literally like 15 cascaders being lit on fire and standing in 15 seconds inside the fire to make it look real. It wasn't CGI fire, it was real fire, and they were preparing a few days for it to make sure nobody gonna get hurt. So here's an example, that's real fire, not CG. Here are also sets from Game of Thrones. For example, for the Beyond the Wall storyline, they built the whole lake and the whole ice terrain. It took them a few weeks, hundreds of tons of concrete, etc., to make it real. Of course, they could use green screen just to make it CG, but every time, like one of the main things is, if you can shoot anything in real life, then do it, because it more likely will look better and more realistic than just CG. You can enhance the real stuff with CG, like we have the shoot scene here, and we can extend, remove the sky and extend the whole set with CG, but what you see in the first one will be real. And with the environment, we're getting better. One of the things we still lack in quality is face animation. It's getting better and better, but whoever saw the Rogue One movie knows General Tarkin and his face animation. Or Leah, because animation is almost able to restore and do the whole fashion animation. But because we see each other, we talk face to face every day, our minds are so set up to recognize the facial tics, facial animations, the slightest moves, that when we see it CG, we immediately know something is wrong. So it's probably going to be still a few years before we're going to get to the unrecognizable. So here, one of the things that go mechanical is also actors posing as a character that's going to be then replaced in post-production, like Groot and Rocket. I think Rocket is like 2 meters high in real life, so. Yeah, here is the scene where Drax is petting the Rocket at the end of Guardian 1. And the other effects are visual. That's basically everything we create in CG. So from the face, to characters, creatures, to the landscapes. Like here, for Harry Potter, there was removal of the nose and replacement of the face features for Lord Voldemort. Remove for the Avengers, that's from Infinity War. If you haven't seen it, sorry, spoilers. Few characters that were played by actors in the motion capture suit. I'm going to talk about this technology a bit later. And you see the green screen here, and then just extended through the CG created environment. Here is the whole character replacement. I see if you got different face color. That's whitewashing or no? So how it all started? That was the whole animation and CGI was able to be forward to use thanks to the advance in computers. Disco. So now let's show the example of enchanted drawing. So that's the computer character. Yeah. So that's the first computer animation ever created. It was in 1968, made by a Russian mathematician. That's second 35. Yeah, okay. So that's the first computer animation. That was 60 years ago. So, as you can see, we've gone long way since that, and it was only 60 years. And all thanks to the advancement in computers, the processing power. In history, one of the movies that I'm going to talk about, few movies that really changed the whole special effects industry. One of them was Star Wars, made by George Lucas. I think everyone saw it at least once. So that was the movie that George Lucas wanted to make, but everyone in the industry was saying to him, "Are you crazy, man? Nobody watches these movies." That was, well, in that times, nobody watches the movies. Yeah, so technologies used for the Star Wars that was created especially for it was robots, motion control robots, that could do the same camera movement over and over again. So you could record the whole scene with different characters, different stuff, and then combine them together to look at like something is going on. Because remember, back then we were shooting at the film, not the hard drives. So whatever you had on film, you couldn't change it really. Anyone know why lightsabers were like blinking, were not real straight line? Yeah. Every lightsaber was drawn by hand on each frame by an artist. So imagine you have, I don't know, 1,000 frames, and you have artists who are sitting with a marker and going frame by frame, drawing every lightsaber. So tell everyone, thicker, thinner, and that's how it started. Also back then, when they were doing motion control, you couldn't combine few different shots like you do it now in computer. You had to copy film on the film. But films get torn, like not torn. used. They fade when you use them over and over again. For example, in the New Hope episode, when you have final battle for the Death Star, you have the scene where you have around 40 or 50 different spaceships flying together. Each of them were shot separately and then copied one by one on the same film. If the guy making the copy would make a mistake on the 49th ship out of 50, he would have to start over again. So back then, every mistake was really costly. Because, for example, if you lost your main copy of the film, then you lost all the shots. And there were examples where the director gives the only copy of the film to the post-production studio, and they make a mistake, and all movie is gone. Not this day, thanks to all the copies, hard drives, and digital data, it's almost not possible. But imagine how stressful was work back in the days. Now, in today's industry, when you plan the movie, you're like, yeah, whatever, we do it in post. We see a car in the shop, yeah, we do it in post. Someone has a different hair color, yeah, we do it in post. Here are, for example, from the creation of Star Wars. As you can see, everything was almost miniatures, no CGI back then. That's how they shot every ship separately and then copied. Iconic Imperium Strikes Back, and you see all those cushioning below when he drops. Yeah, and that's the comparison between Old Trilogy and the Middle Trilogy. Old Trilogy was all miniatures and everything shot in camera. The New Trilogy, full CGI. As you can see, if you watch the trilogies now, which trilogy get better with the age? The first original trilogy or the Phantom Menace? Because I can watch New Hope all over, but when I watch Phantom Menace, yeah, no. It is a bit, because when you have a green screen, I'm going to talk about it later a bit more, but for example, when you have a green screen, you have so-called spill. Every time you have to light it, so the characters are a bit lightened by the screen, or blue or green, so you have to remove it. With the technology, with the progress, the technology got better. You got better algorithms to removing the spill, etc. Back then, you had to do it by hand or just fade it, like make it faded cut. And now, if you watch it, sometimes you can see the exact places where it's a bit faded cut from the green screen. And if you know where you look, you're watching it like, come on, seriously? I cannot watch it anymore. So here are the few, like the giants of the special effects industry. ILM, created especially for the Star Wars by George Lucas. And we can say that George Lucas had different ideas over the years and we can argue with them or agree with them. But he opened ILM, and what he did after shooting Star Wars was unprecedented at that time, because he opened his own company to anyone who wanted. So anyone who wanted to make a movie with visual effects could come to ILM and ask them to make the effects. That's what made the company now the biggest company in the market at the moment, and what allowed the whole industry to grow. Then we had legacy effects created by Stan Winston, the guy that made the Alien, the Predator, the Avatar, all the costumes, everything designed by him, made by him by hand. Unfortunately, he died like, I think 2 years after the Avatar. So now probably some of you that in the cosplay know there's a Stan Winston School of Character Arts. That's made by the guy that made the legacy effects. Then we have Weta Digital, created by Peter Jackson for the Lord of the Rings. And then it grew to become another giant in the industry. And Double Negative, Digital Domain, and dozens of other studios. If you sometimes sit through this credits at the end of the movie, because we have posted the scene, so you have to sit through. If you could read them and see how many people are doing visual effects. For example, in Infinity War, I think there was 16 different studios making visual effects. and around over 1,000 people doing it. So that's why you cannot say there's one company that's best, because usually, for example, ILM is the main company that handles the things, and then it gives the shots to 10 different other companies. I'll talk about it later, more details. So what are the milestones in computer-generated effects? First was fully CG created character for the movie Young Sherlock Holmes in I think 1980. Then for the old guys that remembers movie Tron original, there was 15 minutes of fully CG created sequence, including the famous light racers, light bike race. And remember, that was almost 40 years ago, so not like today. Back then, computers were not that good, still. Then we have full CGI water in the movie The Abyss in 1989. First digital composition of footage for Indiana Jones in 1989, because previously every composition was made, as I told, for Star Wars, just copied from film to film. First fully 3D special effects in Terminator 2, and dinosaurs from the Jurassic Park. For example, when I was watching how they created it, for some of the shots, they made a full mechatronic T-Rex, just without legs. Legs were made on the Jeep, and they removed in post-production the legs and Jeep and just added the legs. Everything else was mechatronic. Same with some of the Raptors shot later on. And thanks to that, the first Jurassic Park uses a lot of mechatronic instead of CGI. When you watch it today, it still looks good, because mechatronics doesn't grow old, CGI do. Especially if you have cheap CGI in some of the movies now. Then we have Toy Story, which was the first fully computer-generated animation. Might be surprising, because that was like, what, 23 years ago only. Next, The Matrix, first use of bullet time effect, slow motion, which is now in every movie, in every possible way, in every commercial, and it's everywhere. And first time was in Matrix. It was, now it's of course made fully CGI with the cameras going around. Back then they used, I think, around 100 DSLR photographs, and you see you had to set them up in the line, where was camera going, and they just edited the pictures. So the movement of Keanu Reeves was normally fast, and they just used photographies from all the series to make the slow motion effect. Yeah, then we have first fully artificial intelligence controlled soldiers that were used in the opening battle for Lord of the Rings with elves versus Mordor. Like the whole first line of elves doing the fight with the sword, that's all controlled by the computer. No human was involved. And then we have famous Gollum, played by Andy Serkis, Oscar for Andy Serkis. Because if we, that was a bit joke, but if you consider how many roles Andy Serkis played so far in the cinema, all the Planet of the Apes, Gollum, etc., but he's not considered for Oscar because he's not him in the movie. Even though all the facial performance is made by the Andy Serkis. We're talking about this technology a bit later as well. Yeah, that was himself. Yeah, and then there was the Avatar. In the movie industry, now we sometimes say AD, yeah, BB, no, sorry, BA, AA. Before Avatar, after Avatar. Because we can laugh, but some people can say the story was bad, but if we look at the technology that made into making the movie and how it impacted the whole industry today, it was like one of the most impactful movies of all time. Yeah, so now we're talking about the technologies, including the one from the Avatar. Yeah, so blue screen, green screen. Can anyone tell me what's the difference between the colors, why they're different, and why we use different colors? And why not white or red or something?
Because some of the colors which are good in human skin, and they are used by properties, because when someone use blue properties, then we use green screen and another way?
Yeah, exactly. So that Linka here will be giving points, so that will be 1 point for you. We use green and blue because those colors are not in human skin. And we use them when we don't need to remove the color from the scene. For example, when they were shooting Spider-Man 1 with Green Goblin, on the one side of the studio they had blue screen for the Green Goblin, and on the other side they had green screen for the Spider-Man. I clicked something bad. Another, well, maybe not exactly technology, but studio is called Laura VFX. That studio that you can find their website, you can find what movies they were working on, but you cannot find any information what they do. Because they are doing so-called digital plastic surgery. Like if you're fatty, you get the six ups. If you're ugly, they make you beautiful, etc. And many actors are afraid, and it's like top secret because they don't want you to know what they have improved by this company in the movie. I heard rumors they added some six packs to some guys for the movie because they didn't have. So that's what they do. And literally, you cannot find any information like what movie they did. You just know, okay, they were working on this movie. We have few examples they shared, like here. And here is from Captain America, First Avenger. Which one is real Chris Evans? The one on the left or the one on the right? Yeah. And this one is completely generated by CG, by this company.
They have another guy, and he wrote the same scenes. They just added Chris Evans' head as well.
Yeah, but they had to also add the background and increase it. So it was not only, it was sort of body double, but also enhanced by the CGI. But yeah. Another is landscapes. One of the leading softwares used now is called Vue for creating virtual environments. Actually, in this software you can make almost fully real renders of the landscapes. The whole jungle in Avatar was made in this program. This one is not from movie, it's made by me. It took me like 5 minutes to do it. A few more examples of landscapes. Yeah, so that here is an example how the program, how the landscape looks when the graphic is working on it, and here is how it looks after rendering. So sometimes when you're a graphic designer, you need to have a lot of imagination when working on the stuff, because when you have to imagine what's going to look like, because when you work on it, you don't have power to see it live after the make. Okay, so what made the Avatar movie so special in the industry? One of the things James Cameron did was made first 3D rigs for the cameras, because to shoot natively movie in the 3D, you need to have the lenses set exactly apart as human eye. But if some of you saw the lenses for the cameras, they are quite big, so you cannot place them side by side and still have the same distance between the lenses. So he made the rig that one camera is horizontal and the other is vertical, with a set of mirrors looking through the mirrors next to the lens. So it allowed to put two big cameras next to each other and still have 3D shoot simultaneously. Another is technology called motion capture. It's used extensively in video games and in movie production. It's all when you see the actors in all the gray suits with the markers, etc., running around, doing something. That's called motion capture, because they record the movement for the character. Computer records it, cameras records it, and then the animator just plug it into the character. They of course have to fix it a bit, but they don't have to do it by hand. Yes?
Isn't it this similar technology what Disney used in the first fairy tales? For example, Snow White was the fully character, and then recreate the true person to Snow White?
I think so, yeah. And part of this technology, motion capture, is performance capture. It's, as you see, used solely for the face. You have two cameras placed in front of the actor, in front of the face, with dozens of markers for the whole face, to capture exactly like their facial performance and just their facial performance. So we're getting closer and closer, but that's technology that James Cameron pushed really for the avatar, so the characters had the emotions on the face. Here's an example of the circus, and that's the motion capture suit. There are a few different types of motion capture, but we're not going to get into it. But basically, sometimes some of the actors, you can hear them whining because they're like, oh, back in the old days we had the set and props and people, and now we're just playing in front of the green screen. Some of it is true, but some of the actors are saying like, hey, you don't have imagination while you're playing. So this one truly requires a lot of imagination to feel the character. For example, I think I read somewhere that in the circus when he was playing in the World of the Apes, he had the like hand extensions, so he could walk on a set like an ape, exactly to feel like an ape. Okay, so one of the most game-changing technologies made for Avatar was virtual camera. It looks like this. It's camera just with the LCD screen and markers. It allows the director to take the camera and walk in real time on the set, on the movie. So you don't have to wait 6 months for the post-production to finish the editing of the effects, of the environment, everything. He got everything live. Of course, it's a rough view like here, but he can walk around the set in real time on the live and see what angle he likes the best, what looks the best. Doesn't have to wait months to see if his idea was correct. And this one is now used in a lot of movies because it gives the freedom to the director. So what's the cost of the technology? Of course, it's a lot of data. Here's an example. All footage for the avatar was 1 petabyte. To see what's petabyte is like 13.5 years of HD video. 10 billions of photos on Facebook is 1.5 petabyte. And 20 petabytes is the amount of data processed by Google per day. It was a few years ago, so I guess now probably can double the numbers. But you see how much data is involved now. We flew the humans to the moon on the PC that had, I think, 8 megabytes of RAM, and now we need 1 petabyte for a stupid movie. Anyone saw the animation called Monsters vs. Aliens? So that was first 3D animation for like 3D glasses. And anyone can guess how many years it would take to render this animation on home PC? Huh? 100 years? No. You would have to start before dinosaurs were extinct. Around a few 100,000 years. So now you can imagine what power need to have those studios inside, what computers to be able to create those movies. Here are the examples of rigs for the shooting of the moving things in cars. Yes?
Don't they have like some rendering farms, these studios?
Yeah, but still because of PC, but they have like, for example, farm with 40,000 PCs.
Yeah, that's right.
40,000 CPUs. Why do you think the budget for a CGI movie is $300 million?
But you can rent Amazon for it.
Yeah, but I don't think Amazon has the processing power to render the movie, considering you have dozens of those movies at the same time. So, no, I don't know.
I think so. There's some great problems with GPU.
Yeah, but you need, for example, for Transformers 2, they went.
It's an old movie.
Yeah, but for Transformers 2, they went so high in CGI that one frame was rendering, I think, for 75 hours. And we had one frame, 1 second is 24 frames, and they had to render a few thousand seconds or something like this. So
how you can use GPU?
Of course, that's why we can make better and better CGI, because we have more and more processing power, but still, it's not enough. Still, if we have more power, we can make better effect, which in the end ends up we're in the same spot in the render time. We just have better quality.
Yeah, but in the end you don't do something like that. You can run.
True, if you're doing commercials like my company is doing, we have one render farm rented for us, and we just use it all the time. But studios like ILM that's doing Avatar and Star Wars, they have their own rendering farm because they need full control over it. Plus, the thing is also there's algorithms, because you can rent the render farm, but a lot of those studios have their inside software. They have plugins for the programs like Max that they created by their own, and they're not going to share it with the company doing render farm, because that's our property. So they cannot rent the farm, because they would have to give their own their property and share their secrets. And each studio in the market have their own algorithms, their own scripts, their own softwares, and they usually keep the title to themselves. So here are examples of the cars, how that looks, the rigs for the cars when you see the chase scenes in a movie or something. Too fast. Yeah, so here is typical pipeline. How looks the production of the VFX from the ground. First, we have a pre-production before the movie is shot, where we have research and development. For example, the director comes to us and says, hey guys, I want to have a movie simulation that involves 1,000 guns. Are you able to do it? And we're like, yeah, you know what? We'll get back to it. That's called research and development. Then we sit and see what we can do. Test, first modeling, pre-visualization. That's basic animation. I will show you example later. Then we have production, where the production team is to gather all the information they can from the set, like the camera angle, the type of lens, etc. So we can then recreate the position of the camera inside the software, so the visual effects will fit with the plate we received from the shot. And then we have the whole post-production with look development, creating matte painting, which is environment extensions, rigging of the models, animation, etc. Look development is the most toughest things because, for example, as you know, director has different vision, agency has different vision, producers has different vision, studio has different vision, and now you're a graphic designer and you're like, what am I supposed to do? Everyone telling me something different. So we're doing commercials, and with our commercials, sometimes the amount of variations on one scene is up to 50 different looks for the same scene, because agency wants one thing, director wants the other thing, etc. So there are the research development tests, pre-visualization. I think the movie we can start this movie here. Okay, so here's an example of what is pre-visualization. Before the movie is even shot, the studio is preparing the VFX, very rough, basic preview for the director of thought of shots, how it's going to look like, the length of the shot, etc. It's completely basic. That's like where we start. From this, you have months and months of work to what we see then in the cinema. Yeah? Okay, thanks.
Stop clicking the present. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So that's what we do before production, then we have a production. I'm not going to talk long about it because that's not what I exactly do. There's a few, as you can say, idea what do you need from the set. For example, on the set you have a guy that only job is to sit with a paper and write notes, like what camera lens was used, what kind of roll, what filter, what was the height of the camera, angle of the camera, weight of the camera, etc., etc., etc. Everything he just writes every time the director says action and then says cut. That's his only job. But if you screw up, we screw up. That's the example of how the information from the set looks. that would we receive. For example, a shot that's going to be neat close-up of the girl behind the cafe door, what was the camera length, etc. That's all the information we need to have to restore it in CG. Yes?
If I understand right, so you have to have information about camera position and you don't use tracking methods?
Yeah, we do, but we need to have base camera. For example, we can track the footage, the camera, but if, for example, we want to set tree in the perspective or car, but does camera look at the car from this angle or from this angle? The move of the camera will be exactly the same, but the angle of the lens will be completely different, and perspective on the car will be completely different. So if we don't have the information from the set, then we need to do it, like figure out ourselves, one iteration by iteration. Exactly. Tracking markers, that's what we need on the set. If they want to set something from CG, we need to have tracking markers. Otherwise, nobody going to do it by hand. Like, nobody. For example, here you have the motion capture suit to replace the character and tracking markers on the extension of the set. Yeah. Later, to have the actors on the set, usually you try to give them some props so they can feel for the line of the pie, where the pie is going to be, or for the Guardians as you see where the Groot's going to be a rocket, etc. So the actor has basic understanding what's going on in the scene, doesn't have just screen. Then you can use also the 3D scanning for the better position and the photorealistic geometry, but I'm not going to get into it now. One of the things that's interesting, every lens you shot, every lens is different. Even though it's made by the same manufacturer, it's exactly the same type, it still has a bit different specification. That's why you need also shot with something like this, made by the camera, with the notation. This lens has this distortion shot, so then we can just plug it into software, and the software gonna apply it to every shot from this lens automatically. We don't have to, again, fix it ourselves. Other thing is so-called HDRI home pose, which is every time you do a shot in the scene outside, we need to have lighting information, because one of the crucial things in making virtual and CGI things is lighting. If you don't do it correctly, people will see it instinctively. If the shadow is from the right angle, the color is from the right angle. For example, Pacific Rim 1 was made mostly at night. Some people will think because they wanted to save the money, because when you shoot it at night, you don't have a sunlight. That's true, because you don't have to worry about where was the sunlight in the shot, how to position it, how it's going to light up the whole scene. In Pacific Rim 2, they went full day with lower budget. So yeah, you can figure out how it ended. So here's how the kick. Okay, I think that's the movie. You can play it. Example, how the footage from
I'm Phil Holland and welcome to High Creation live action visual effects.
So basically you take the shots, you merge them together, and then you apply it to software, and the software is rendering the whole environment around the object with proper lighting. Yeah. Thank you. Here are the examples from our set. You see the guy making the photos. Here's the yeah, okay. So I work for the company called No Labor. We're doing the commercials, and now we can move to the folder with the movies. Yeah. So now I'm going to show you some stuff from inside of my company. So it's top secret, as I can say. We recently finished the commercial with Messi. I don't know if anyone knows who is it. Some stuff, I'm not lying. The thing is, the commercial is for China yogurt with Messi, without Messi. One, I didn't say my company is working mostly for the Asian market, India, Singapore, Vietnam, China. And this commercial is made for the World Cup with Messi. And the thing is, there is no Messi in this commercial. We don't even know if the Messi knows about this commercial. We just know that Team Messi knows about it. That's all we know. Yeah, we can go back to Messi and start with the PDF. Yeah. So, when we received the stuff from the agency that wants us to make the company, we first received storyboard like this. I think let's move on. You see, that's what the storyboard. So what they want us to create. That's the basic view. What shots they want. You can go on like this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So those are all the shots the company agency wants us to create. As you see, here was Messi standing on the stadium, kicking the ball, changing into yogurt environment, full CGI yogurt, and then yogurt Messi is playing with the ball, which is yogurt, and then everything is happy and it's yogurt. Don't ask. Don't worry, it's still Indian commercials, those are wicked. Yeah, close the PDF, please. And go with the Mimica, the third folder, yeah. So, we were told we want commercial with Messi. So they sent us reference, how Messi looks. You can laugh, but after looking for a month into fake Messi, you have no idea if it's real Messi or not. If it's in your brain, or it's already real Messi. Because making him look like this, it took us 1.5 months. Okay. So first, the agency sends us the reference. What they want, how they want to look. They send a reference of the stadium. Then we can go to the yogurt folder. Yeah. So here they sent us recorded footage. Yeah, okay. How the yogurt look. And they're like, so we want you guys to make it look like this. And we are like, what? Yeah, so they sent us reference, what's the consistency of the yogurt, what they wanted to look like, what's the color range, and now you have to stick to it. And that's the paint that we're gonna do. So, you can go back, please. Maybe show the thickness one more time. Yeah. Okay, so here's a close-up, how thick it is. So, it's so good. It's so good, it's thick. Now move on. Yeah, so let's go with Animatic. Yeah, so, as you saw the previous visualization for the Planet of the Apes, the first thing you do after receiving and approving that, yeah, we're doing the commercial, etc., we're doing the basic animatic. So that's how the commercial looked at the start. Please. Yeah, so that's where we start. That was the first animatic, of course approved, because why not? And then we had next one, that's version, second version of the animatic.
能接受一些特性的人，往往是从一个单纯的念头开始。
You see, some scenes are improved, some are still not. But basically, you have to send the client VIPs, which means work in progress, usually at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. So you can assure them, hey guys, don't worry, we're working. Because the client doesn't understand that making things takes time. Making the simulation of the liquid takes time. For them, it's like, but hey, it's just changing of the color. It's not that bad, right? You can do it in 5 minutes. Yeah, 5 days later. Because changing the color sometimes it makes changing all the renders. So, and sometimes render, for example, simulation of the liquid takes a weekend on our rendering file. So, yeah, and then Messi, go back to Messi, yes, and we can start with SH. Yeah. So, start with the first animatic. Here is the example of how the first shot changed throughout the production. So that was the first iteration. Second, that was the 10th animation. You can see the amazing face of the Messi already. Because in this movie, the agency said, yeah, you have to do a Messi, but we're not going to give you Messi. So we had a body double in another studio that made the whole kicking movement for the Messi, with the tracking on his face. We then removed his face and put Messi face on it. What's worse, the agency forgot to take a proper t-shirt, so they said, yeah guys, you know what, we forgot the t-shirt, please replace the t-shirt as well. So as you see, we do it in post. So we had to do the all cloth simulation. Yeah, that's the third iteration, I think 15th try. He still got the old t-shirt, but I think it already looks more a bit like Messi, right? You agree or not? Okay, so better than agency because they said no way. So it took us only 20 more try to get the look properly, which is the final. So it took us, as I said, this shot was I think 35 different versions before they said, okay, looks fine. As I said, it took us 1.5 months to create. I think 15 people were working on it. And now you can show the final commercial, the Messi here. No, lower, no, that's the shot. Here, that's the full finished commercial.
能坚守必经方向的人，往往是从一个单纯的念头开始，认真做到最好，不带一丝杂念。就像纯真酸牛奶，选用天然食材，牧场生牛乳，自然慢发酵，只为酸奶本来的味道，味道纯纯，尽享精彩。蒙牛世界杯全球赞助商。
So that's the final commercial. 1.5 months later, and a lot of
Good job.
We don't really have time, right? Left? Yeah. So just for the final, please go to the Tata Kurko. This one, back and Tata Kurko. That's the other commercial we did. That's for an energy drink for Indian market. Just watch. After this, I'm going to ask you if you understand what's going on in this book. going on?
They found the plant-based or what?
So the premise of the commercial is there is a cruise where they show you underwater tempo, but they run out of the energy, so they gave the energy drinks to the surfers, and they swim so fast that they made a swirl and reveal the hidden tempo underwater. And that shows how powerful the energy drink is. So I think that's all. Thank you very much. If you have any questions.